Why do the Seraphites gut their enemies? Who was really on the radio at the end, the Fireflies or the Rattlers? How do bats and clickers both locate their prey in a similar way? In this video, we're diving deep into the darkest corners of The Last of Us Part 2, exploring hidden lore and facts that will change the way you see the game. Let's get into it. Number 10. The aquarium wasn't always empty. In The Last of Us Part 2, the Seattle Aquarium is a place many players remember as Abby's hideout. But what most don't know is that before Abby, another family lived there. Their story isn't told through cutscenes, but you can discover it through notes and environmental clues. After the outbreak, Ricky arrived in Seattle with his mother, father, and younger brother, Max. They took shelter in the abandoned aquarium, hoping to stay safe. For a while, they lived there together, but everything changed when soldiers attacked. During one of these attacks, their mother was killed. After her death, their father became overly protective and fearful. He refused to leave the aquarium and tried to keep Ricky and Max safe at all costs. Max coped with his grief by painting and using his imagination. Ricky, on the other hand, grew angry. He wanted to take action. He felt trapped and blamed his father for doing nothing. One day, Ricky met a group of Seraphites passing through the area. He told them how unhappy he was, but also said he couldn't leave his father. The Seraphites left him a letter, inviting him and Max to join their group if they ever wanted a new life. Later, when the Seraphites returned, Ricky made a choice. He took Max with him and left the aquarium, leaving their father behind. Through hidden notes and subtle details in the aquarium, we learn that their father couldn't bear losing his family. He took his own life. This part of the story is never shown in a cutscene, but if you explore the aquarium carefully, you'll find clues about what really happened. Some fans even believe that Max's unfinished paintings represent the moment when he and Ricky left their father behind for good. Number 9. Esther's unfinished story. One of the changes that didn't make it into the final version of the game was the removal of a character named Esther. Fans of the first game might remember her from The Last of Us One Night Live, a live theatrical performance that took place shortly after the events of the original story. In the final scene of that performance, Esther was introduced as Joel's romantic interest, someone he met through Tommy. Naughty Dog initially planned to include Esther in The Last of Us Part 2. In an early concept, after Tommy teaches Ellie how to use a sniper rifle during a flashback, Ellie would join Joel on a trip to visit Esther. She lived about 2 hours away from Jackson. As they approached her house, Joel and Ellie would discover that it had been attacked by infected. Once inside, they would find that Esther had been infected. Knowing the tragic fate that awaited her, Joel would ask Ellie to fetch some water from a nearby river. While Ellie was outside, a single gunshot would be heard.
Sweet.
According to Hallie Gross, the narrative lead and co-writer of the game, the scene was designed in a way that left it unclear whether Esther took her own life or Joel pulled the trigger. Gross explained that the team ultimately decided to cut Esther from the game, as there wasn't enough time to fully develop her character before her death. At one point, the developers had even included a love letter from Esther in Joel's house, but that too was removed from the final version. Number 8. The dog that was left behind in development. Early in development, the team considered giving Ellie a dog companion during her journey through Seattle. One of the ideas was that the dog would help Ellie by retrieving items that were out of her reach or located in dangerous areas. This companion was meant to add a new gameplay dynamic and emotional connection, offering both utility and comfort in the dark world of the game. In fact, before the game was released, Naughty Dog even shared a piece of concept art showing Ellie standing beside a loyal dog. This made some fans believe that the dog would play a part in the final game. However, the idea never made it past the early stages of development, and the feature was ultimately removed. Still, a small part of this idea survived in the final version of the game. In the second half, when you play as Abby, you're accompanied by a trained WLF dog during certain combat sequences. This dog fights by your side and helps you take down enemies, giving players a short glimpse of what having a canine companion could have felt like. Number 7. The world ended in 2013. One really interesting detail in The Last of Us Part 2 is how the world feels completely frozen in time. Even though the story takes place around the year 2038, all signs of human progress stopped back in 2013, the year the cordyceps outbreak began. As you explore the game, you'll notice that all calendars still show the year 2013. That's because after the outbreak, printing factories shut down and no new calendars were ever made. People stopped tracking time the way we used to because survival became the only thing that mattered. Technology is also stuck in the past. For example, you can see a PlayStation 3 in the game, which was the current console in 2013. Since then, the tech industry completely collapsed. No new consoles, no new advancements. The world never moved forward. These small, thoughtful details show just how much care the developers put into creating a believable and consistent timeline. Number 6. Like bats, but creepier. As you probably know, clickers are completely blind and rely on their hearing to locate their prey. But what's really interesting is that in addition to their sharp hearing, they also use a unique ability that works just like bats: echolocation. Before we dive into how clickers hunt, let's first look at how bats use echolocation to catch their prey. One of the adaptations that help bats navigate, fly, and hunt in the dark is this echolocation system. They emit high-frequency sounds from their mouth or nose. When these sound waves hit an object and bounce back, the bat picks up the echo with its ears. By calculating how long it takes for the sound to return, the bat can determine the distance to the object. It can even detect the size, movement, and texture of the object, helping it identify whether it's a stationary surface or a flying insect. Clickers in The Last of Us use a similar method. They stay silent at first, carefully listening to their surroundings. When they hear something suspicious, they emit a loud, sharp clicking sound, their version of echolocation. If you're in the path of those sound waves, they'll locate and attack you. But if you're behind cover, the waves won't bounce off you the same way, and the clicker won't detect your presence. This level of detail in designing their behavior makes clickers not only terrifying, but incredibly fascinating enemies in the game. Number 5. The meaning behind Ellie's tattoo. Ellie's tattoo in The Last of Us Part 2 has sparked a lot of discussion, and fans have come up with multiple interpretations. Some of these interpretations have been confirmed by the developers, while others have gained popularity purely through fan theories. Here are the most widely accepted meanings behind Ellie's tattoo. 1. Covering the bite mark. This is the most straightforward interpretation. It's shown in the game that Ellie got the tattoo to cover up her bite mark. Neil Druckmann himself has confirmed this in interviews. 2. The moth, a symbol of Joel. Many fans believe the moth represents Joel. Moths appear around Joel throughout the game. They decorate his guitar, show up in emotional scenes with him, and are visually linked to the song Future Days. This creates a symbolic connection between the moth and Joel, as someone deeply tied to Ellie's emotional journey. Another interpretation, which is even more poetic, is that the moth represents Ellie herself, someone who relentlessly pursues her goal no matter the cost. Moths fly toward the light even if it burns them. This perfectly reflects Ellie's relentless path of revenge, even when it leads to her own pain and loss. Neil Druckmann has subtly supported this idea in interviews. 3. The fern, a symbol of survival and growth in darkness. Ferns grow in damp, dark places where most plants can't survive. This mirrors Ellie's life, a world filled with violence, betrayal, loss, and inner conflict. The fern symbolizes resilience and the ability to grow even in the harshest environments, making it a fitting representation of Ellie's strength and endurance. Number 4. The bloody golf club. At the beginning of The Last of Us Part 2, there's a very famous and emotional scene that players won't forget anytime soon. Joel is captured by the WLF group, and in a brutal moment, Abby kills him with a deadly hit using a golf club. It's a shocking choice. Why did the writers choose a golf club instead of a more common weapon? Neil Druckmann, the game's director and writer, explained that this idea came from something that happened to him in real life. When he was 16 years old, a friend invited him to play golf. During that day, his friend's golf club accidentally hit Neil on the head and he started bleeding. In the early plans for the game, Abby was supposed to paralyze Joel by stabbing him from behind and twisting the knife. But the knife was already a special weapon connected to Ellie, so the team wanted something different, something unique and unexpected. That's when Neil remembered his accident with the golf club. Number 3, meaning behind the name Rat King. The Rat King, in The Last of Us Part 2, is one of the game's most terrifying and memorable bosses. This grotesque creature is a fusion of multiple infected individuals, specifically stalkers, clickers, and a bloater, all merged together by the cordyceps fungus over years of infection. The result is a massive, resilient superorganism that surpasses the strength and durability of any other infected encountered in the game. The name Rat King is inspired by a rare real-world phenomenon where several rats become entangled at their tails due to sticky substances like sap or blood, forming a living cluster. Historically, such occurrences were seen as omens of disease and misfortune. In the game, this concept is metaphorically represented by the amalgamation of infected bodies, symbolizing the horrors of unchecked infection and decay. Number 2, a holy cult or a religious nightmare? Let me tell you 3 fascinating facts about the Seraphites that reveal how deeply twisted and fanatical their worldview really is. Fact 1. A return to simplicity, no guns, no machines. The Seraphites believe that before the outbreak, the world was full of corruption, sin, and deviation, all caused by technology, modern life, and humanity's complicated way of living. In their eyes, the outbreak was God's punishment. That's why they reject all modern tools and weapons, choosing instead to live in the most primitive way possible. In combat, they rely on bows, axes, and other handmade weapons instead of guns. They only use guns when they're absolutely forced to and the situation demands it. They believe that only through simplicity and disconnection from human progress can they find spiritual purity and reconnect with God. On the other hand, this cult strives to create a unified society free from individualism, and the identical appearance of its members is part of that philosophy. That's why all the men shave their heads, and overall their look and appearance are very similar to one another. Fact 2. Meaningful whistles, their own language of war. In The Last of Us Part 2, the Seraphites use different kinds of whistles to communicate during battle. Each whistle has its own meaning based on length and tone. Up until now, the fans have understood the meanings of 9 different types of whistles from this group. These whistles are not random sounds. They form a deadly language that lets the Seraphites move and fight like a single, silent unit. Fact 3. The punishment of gutting, a ritual of purification. Throughout the game, you often find people hanged with their stomachs cut open. But why? To the Seraphites, gutting is a religious ritual, a form of sacrifice. They believe their enemies are sinners, but that sin lives in the body, not the soul. They see the soul as still pure, so they cut open the body to release the soul. This isn't just physical torture, it's deeply spiritual for them. It's their twisted way of cleansing evil through pain and death, a horrific act that perfectly reflects their dark, cult-like beliefs.
They are nested with sin. Free them, that they may know.
Number 1. Who was behind the radio call? Fireflies or rattlers? At the end of the game, after several attempts to contact the Fireflies, Abby finally receives a response from someone claiming to be part of them. They ask her to come to a specific location. If you don't remember, the Fireflies were the same organization Abby's father was a part of, and after the events of the first game, most of their members abandoned the group. Just as Abby steps out of the radio room, the Rattlers, a criminal gang involved in human trafficking, ambush her and Lev, capturing them both. Now, there's been a lot of debate among fans. Who was really behind that radio call? Was it the Rattlers or the Fireflies? My opinion is that it was the Fireflies, and here are 2 reasons why. First, If the call had been from the Rattlers, they would have told Abby to stay where she was. That would have made it easier for them to track her down without the trouble of chasing her, but they didn't do that. Second, and this one is much stronger, at the very end of the game, the home screen changes to show a boat washed up on a beach. That boat is the exact same one Abby uses at the end of the game. Also, the location in the home screen is Catalina Casino on Catalina Island, which is the same place mentioned in the radio call.
How do we find you?
Get to Catalina Island. Approach the large domed building in Avalon.
Catalina Casino is a real landmark, and the game uses it to subtly tell us that Abby and Lev made it. They reached the Fireflies. But this also opens up a big question. Are the Fireflies really living there, or are we about to meet yet another faction using Abby for their own goals? If The Last of Us Part 3 ever gets made, this could be a major plot point with lots of twists and turns. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment to show your support. It helps the channel grow and keeps our efforts going. Until next time, take care.